Well, I was a CPA. I'm not a practicing CPA anymore. I call myself a recovering CPA. That's step 9 of the 12-step program.
When I thought about the Duvernay Award and I thought about what it meant to the affordable housing or community development industry, I kind of look at it as a community development industry award. I immediately thought about George Larimore. And why I thought about George Larimore, one is because he's been in the industry for a long time. I believe he actually worked with Terry Duvernay back when Terry was at MISTA, and has been a part of, I would dare say, most, if not all, of the community development deals in West Michigan for a number of years, particularly those early years. Early in his career, he was a licensed CPA, right? And so he took that knowledge and just parlayed it into this community development space that really enhanced the space for the organizations that he's worked with. He's enhanced the space for the people who, will have and will ultimately live in those projects that he helped to develop. And he's enhanced the space for folks like me who, walked into this thing having no idea exactly what it was that I was getting into, just having a passion for wanting to make a difference in the lives of people. He was, for me, he was a godsend as a young community development banker.
We've probably all seen movies that talk about, the mad scientist, the guy who's in the lab with the wild hair and the crazy beakers, boiling in front of him. George is not in any way mad, but he is the guy who knows what happens on those lab tables of finance. He is the guy who gets great delight, tremendous fulfillment out of the knock-down, drag-out, hard labor that's involved in dotting those I's and crossing those T's. The idea to do a housing development or mixed-use development, community development in general, it does require vision, but it will go nowhere without the finance and without the legal matters very well tied together. He knew very, very well that fulfillment, professional gratification, was not in the 20-story office tower downtown. The fulfillment was in the intellectual challenge of taking all that paper out of Washington or Lansing and making it work for somebody who had no other chance.
What makes someone like him special is all the work behind the scenes that he does. He's worked with experienced developers, people who've been doing it for a while, and help them to learn things, and a lot of younger people. In fact, some of the younger people were folks we reached out to for quotes for his nomination, and virtually every one of them had said, if it wasn't for George, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. George was just the guy to call on to help make something happen, and I think when you think about all of the people that have been affected, the people who live in the houses, the people who live in the apartments, the neighbors and residents who live in the neighborhoods where commercial revitalization occurred because of some magic that George helped to create, and all of those leaders, people in the community development industry who learned from George, who were mentored by George, many of whom are still very active, all active in the community. That's a legacy. That's something to talk about.
He worked with organizations who were doing right by the people, right? And I think, from what I know of George, I think that even more so than his ability to dazzle and create artwork with spreadsheets, he really got tied up into the impact that we were making in the community.
I did other things, but pretty much since, 1984, affordable housing, community development projects, tax credit projects, if you would, have been my life and my career. Especially in Michigan, it's dangerous being out in the streets at least 3 or 4 months out of the year. You could freeze to death. But, there's no stability in your life if you don't have a place where you call home. Helping build these projects, by build them, I don't necessarily mean the physical construction, but put the project together financially and literally watch the people that move into it is tremendously rewarding. The other part, it's a heck of a lot more fun than doing accounting, I can tell you that. I'm one of the few people that I know of that can honestly say that I get paid for having a lot of fun. I mean, I really do. There's just working with the right people that have the right attitudes and moving forward is a lot of fun. When I heard that Denny, Jason, and Jonathan were going to nominate me for it, I was a little bit bewildered in disbelief. If you take a look at the people who have won that, I kind of look at most of them as being the giants in the industry. And I really didn't know if I was, still don't know whether for sure I was of their equal. They were phenomenal people. Many of those people, like Jonathan and Denny, were phenomenal mentors of mine. To think those people would think that much of me, to consider me one of their equals, one of their peers, is just phenomenal. It brought tears to my eyes. It really did. It was overwhelming. So I can't even talk about it without getting overwhelmed.